Welcome back to our TW Local 591 podcast. My name is Gary Shobley, your local president. This is our Friday Rep Call recap podcast. We had ports this during the executive board and officer elections, but now that that's behind us, we are going to get it started. And first off, I do want to congratulate all those that won the elections. Joining me today are two of them, your new vice president, Brian Coyne, and then your newly elected or re-elected administrative executive board member, Russ Dittmer. I also want to say thank you for those that served, did not win the election. It goes without saying that, we appreciate everything that they have done for us. So let me start. For everybody knows Russ, I would expect by now, but some of you might not know Brian Coyne. Brian was the Central Region Vice President, and now he is the newly elected Vice President. So welcome to our podcast, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome back, Russ, as always.
Absolutely, always.
So we'll start today, as we always do, with Tony Lepore's peer support update. Tony has been working very hard on trying to get us into a better situation with our union voluntary benefits. This has taken some time, so we are moving from union benefits planners. Actually, we have moved from union benefits planners. Some of you might know them as UBP, to a broker called Hub. It is moving along quite well. We do twice weekly calls and making sure that progress is happening. We're trying to get to a much better situation for voluntary benefits for all of you. So, Brian, do you want to cover the ASAP and compliance report?
Sure. So the ASAP and compliance report. Reminder to everybody, training included in your CBTs is tracked. Make sure the crew chief is aware that you need time. It is a job assignment. You have to have structured time to accomplish this. There's no value in accomplishing a CBT when you're distracted or pulled away from the job assignment. So this is a huge deal. You got to sit there, and it's got to be a job assignment. That's I can't stress that enough. Another thing is actually in the GPM and safety manuals, please always use caution around an aircraft. Spotting, parking, anytime you're around the vicinity of an aircraft, make sure you're in contact with people. We've had a big uptick on aircraft damage, and the company's really taken an issue on it, which we want everybody safe and go home. There's been an uptick in AMTs kind of skipping past sections in the maintenance manual. This is a critical time to read the maintenance manual, including the notes, cautions, and warnings. You're signing it. You are responsible for it. You really need to sit there and pay attention. There's so much documentation out there that we are missing, and we're liable for it. So actually take care of that. Let's make sure of possible compliance pitfalls and that you protect yourself and others at all times. Possible injuries, everything. So just be safe out there.
Yeah, and speaking of safety, Russ, do you want to cover the safety report?
Yeah, we got a report from Mike Cockram, our safety coordinator at Local 591. And first off, the May Safety and Health newsletter is posted on the website. Please take the time to look at it. He spends a lot of time and effort making sure that you have up-to-date, current, and accurate safety information. Along with that, Mike Cockram was in D.C. for the PPE Roadshow, the Personal Protective Equipment Roadshows. He'd already done all of the larger stations and is now getting to some of the smaller stations. In the next couple of weeks, he'll be in Orlando on May 13th, and he'll be in Tampa on May 15th. Along with that, safety, our senior management has come up with this idea to implement a bump cap and safety eyewear at all times type of policy. Of course, no job hazard assessment was done. No risk management worksheet was done to our knowledge. And there's been no training, no information at all on what the scenario is and what the policy really is going to be and how it's going to be applied. So along with that, the company leadership also has decided that they're going to consolidate from 2 prescription safety eyewear companies down to 1. In the past, there were 2, one for the IM group and one for the TW group. Now everyone's moving to the Hoya, H-O-Y-A, TW group. Stay tuned for that because there's definitely going to be significant changes, and there probably is going to need to be training for all of those that are used to one system moving to another system for ordering their safety eyewear. Gary, do you have anything to add?
Just, I'll make it real clear. Our local position has been cleared to senior management on these bump caps and safety glasses, which is where the maintenance manual requires it, and common sense. We're not going to sit around in the break room with bump caps and safety glasses waiting for a piece of dust to fly out of an air conditioning unit. So that's kind of where management's at. It's that everything goes to the extreme. We're not going to engineer our way to figure out the problems that are the safety problems out there. Let's just throw PPE at it and see if that actually fixes it. No. So anyhow, let me go into the field trip update. Our newly elected executive board member at large, Chris Horvath, has been tracking all the field trips for you. He did track 25 line field trips this past week and 5 base field trips. He continues to track all out-of-service events that exceed 8 hours and research anything for the 6K compliance meetings. That's the settlement that we made about a year and a half ago on Article 6K. And we have a meeting every second Thursday of the month. So that will be coming up again next week. So Chris does the tracking for that. Chris also mentioned AA this past week said they're going to spend $4 billion investing in a new DFW Terminal F. This is a company that cries poverty on one side when it comes to getting you the proper equipment to make sure that you are safe on the job. But they got $4 billion to throw out some new digs in DFW.
Absolutely.
So, that's it. Brian, you want to give your grievance update?
Sure. Grievance update. We're working with several board members on reviewing the grievances, trying to get to resolution efforts to close them out. There is a lot of them, but it'll sit there. We'll get through it. It is a big topic for myself and the board. So moving forward on that. Yesterday, Mark, myself, and Gary, met with Mark Nelson, Labor Relations, to sit there and go over a bunch of the grievances that we're getting ready to move forward. It was a very good meeting, but I still have to say, I got to give everybody the reminder on this. The process of actually documentation is huge. They are only going with documentation. They look at the contract and they say, this is the violation. So any information that you can provide to sit there and move forward with this grievance, that I sit there and look at it, or Gary looks at it, or Russ, or any of the board members, that we can sit there and pick it up at any single time. So in a nutshell, we need the members' information. We need to know the backstory, what happened. I will say that one of the grievances that was brought up with labor relations, the steward's notes were impeccable. They were great, and it really helped out totally. And the company had some information that I didn't have, that nobody could know it. I mean, as far as like work brain and stuff like that. But the steward's note was just phenomenal. So kudos to the stewards. You know what? That's what we need, and we'll move forward with that. I want to sit there and go into one of the questions that was brought up was the known outage of crew chiefs. It became an extended discussion. We plan on reviewing all available guidance on this. There's going to be a separate podcast that's scheduled for this with the job reassignments, the ratios, everything. So I just wanted to touch on it, that it is still a subject that is very at the top of the list, of everybody's list.
Absolutely.
So
That'll be a lengthy podcast.
Yeah, it probably
with a flow
will
chart.
It
So.
probably will be.
Yeah.
But other than that, I yield outside of, you want to talk about 19?
Yeah, so the Article 19 Alpha Alphas, 19 Alpha Alphas, we're based doing line field trips. That's our contention. We are still waiting for that to be struck. I continually hit up the association on a weekly basis. They keep assuring me that it's going to be struck next week. So this week coming up, we expect it to be struck. So struck means striking for which arbitrator. There's a list of dozen arbitrators. So, you go down the list and company wants this one. We say no, back and forth until you get to that arbitrator that's actually going to hear the case. So we want that heard, and we want it heard sooner than later. We should have been heard 2 years ago, quite frankly, so we could put that issue to bed. So, Russ, you want to touch on Real ID?
Yeah, May 7th, 2025, Real ID goes live at all U.S. airports. While it's not just about field trips, obviously, if you're going on a field trip, you need to have either a Real ID compliant state issued identification or your passport. You will not be permitted past TSA check points when without that Real ID. If you're not sure or you need to check for your specific state, you can go to www.dhs.gov/real-id. And in there, it'll have a map of the U.S. Click your state. It'll tell you what your ID has to look like in order to be Real ID compliant, and go from there. But remember, this is not a decision that's being made by us. It's not a decision made by the company. This is the federal government mandating this requirement for air travel. And moving forward, Gary, you want to touch on the next topic?
Yes. So let me touch on. I mentioned the officer and executive board elections earlier. So right now we did start with the chairs and also the steward elections. First off, fantastic participation. We got a lot of nominations.
Absolutely.
Close to 400 nominations, which tremendous amount. And in fact, that actually broke down to 45 independent races or elections that are going on across the country, which is outstanding. That said, we did have a couple of glitches early on. It was discovered real fast. There was two minor glitches. One dealt with some folks that had multiple candidates that you can elect. So say a shop steward race that had select 5, you're only able to select 1. And then there was an issue in Miami with the GSE folks were allowed to vote in facilities. Miami, for those that don't know, have a GSE section chair and a facility section chair, and they vote independently on their chairs and also on their stewards. But it was inadvertent that the GSE folks were allowed to vote in the facilities. Both were caught in the first few minutes of the election. We quickly got with our web provider, Union Active, to see if they can do something editing those elections. It was about a dozen, not even a dozen, total races across the country that were affected. They were not able to do an edit once it starts. So what we end up doing was recreating those elections with the proper switches hit. So those that were supposed to vote in those elections or the number of candidates that you were supposed to select was all correct. That got done rather quickly within the first 90 minutes of the election. And then the old elections, we stopped them, took the list of the people that voted, deleted that old election. So those people were all contacted via text to revote. To date, almost all of them have revoted. That said, if you did vote, say in the first 90 minutes of any race, just get on the voting site again, just click on it. If you see a race that says vote, then vote. If you see a race that says you've already voted, then you're in good shape. There's no need to do that. We also had in kind of a mad rush to put this back together in the first, in a very short time frame. A couple typos. I do apologize for the names that were typos. To the folks that are voting, I think you know who you're voting for. Don't vote on a typo. Vote on the person that you know who it is. So, and then one last thing with our votes, as we always do with the chair and the steward elections, to avoid any questions on who voted. At the end of the conclusion of the voting process, we post the names of those who voted. So it takes away any questions or whatsoever. But bottom line, please vote. It's very important that you vote. And, as close to 100% as possible is what our goal is with every vote. So that said, Russ, you want to take the next one of the questions that came in?
Yeah, a question that came up on the call was a member wants to transfer from one classification to another. They wanted to know what their prior classification seniority would be in the transfer. And unfortunately, the answer to that is it depends. What I mean by that is, for example, if someone is an MLS and wants to go to AMT, or MLS and wants to go to Fleet, and they were previously an AMT or Fleet, we have to look back at their work history prior to the JCBA in the old TW contract, look at their history and determine when they left the classification and whether they, what we nicknamed, fell off the cliff. In the old TW world, you retained your seniority for the number of days that you currently had. And if you exceeded that number by even 1 day, you fell off the cliff and you lost all your classification seniority. That changed with the JCBA. So we have to determine whether or not the member was actually still on dry land or had fallen off the cliff. So it's one of those where, in the event a member asks you that question, please get with me, reach out. I'll get with labor relations. They'll get me the information I need in order to make sure the member gets the right answer. It's definitely not an answer of yes or no to any member. It's always going to take research to make sure we give them the accurate answer.
Yeah, very good. Brian, there was a question on management observing our work.
There was. We were told management is being assigned a list of questions to ask members to inspect the work when AMTs are accomplishing chip detector cards. So we have inspectors for that work. Management is not to inspect our work, no back checks, observe, verify, compliance, etc. All of that is association work. There will be a read and sign on this because they're trying to determine what actually caused the oil loss for this. If they want to sit there and talk to them, QA and stuff, QC, they want to sit there and go out and talk to them, they can. But it's our work. This is something our ASAP compliance folks have been reminding us of quite some time, that bearing an emergency or danger to life or limb before stopping or moving on from one job to another, because this was a big topic when you're assigned multiple aircrafts. What happens when you're reassigned, right? So if you're reassigned to a different aircraft, you got to finish the one. You're signing for all this. If it's, you got to go back to it, whatever the case is, you have to sit there and sign off what you did, when you did it, and then move on to the next one. If we get multiple aircraft, that's what you have to do. One's got to be first, one's got to be last. That's it. They want to prioritize with it, they can. And you can do that one first, but one's got to be first, one's got to be last. So it was a big topic that was brought up. I don't really know what else to say on that. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Covered it. Russ, you had an update on our collective bargaining agreements books?
Yeah, as Gary and I were members of the negotiating team for Local 591, along with both Mike Jazerski and before him, Mike Bush. The association was provided a draft copy of an updated contract book in PDF form. The negotiating committee reviewed it, came up with some things that they clearly did not agree with and needed to be fixed. And some were readability issues that told you basically at the bottom of the page, go to the back of the book where the letter, settlement letter and clarification letter is for that corrected language. There was a formatting issue that the company was having with this. So instead of changing all of the language in every of the articles that were modified, they just placed a footnote down at the bottom of the pages that were modified and send you to the back of the book for most things. The wage charts are, in fact, incorporated directly into the contract now. You don't have to go to the back of the book to the extension or anything like that. But the settlement and clarification items are footnoted at the bottom, and you go to the back of the book to read your particular MLS, M&R, MCT, and MTS settlement and clarification letter, because they are all different.
Oh, very good.
And I do have one more item, Gary.
All right.
The last thing that came up was the tumblers, the mugs, that we're sending out to all of the members. The manufacturer of these is working very hard to get them to us. Unfortunately, it's a two-step process. First, they're manufactured. Then they are shipped to an etching company that does the TW Local 591 emblem. So basically, each mug has to be disassembled, etched, reassembled, repackaged, and then that station, when it's done for all of them, gets shipped to their batch. Moving forward, what we're going to do is I'm going to get the updates at least once a week from the company, and I will be updating the station chairs and the regional vice presidents on the status of any new shipments that have gone out.
Oh, very good. Any other final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, that is our podcast for today. I want to thank Brian and then Russ for joining me on this podcast. Also, thank you for watching. If you ever have any ideas on a podcast that you want to hear, please contact us at info@local591.com. And as a reminder, please vote, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks.